Oh, hey there.
Oh, hey there.
I'm not used to starting it, so I was waiting for you.
I know. I was staring you down.
Staring at me like, what's happening right now? I don't know what to do.
I was waiting to see if you were going to start.
Hey, we're the History of Buffoons.
That's right. I'm Kate.
And I'm Bradley. How are you, Kate?
I'm good.
Good.
I discovered something.
What did you discover?
Skittles gummies. They're delicious, and I love gummy bears, gummy worms.
Mm-hmm.
So, taste the rainbow in gummies.
Don't mind if I do.
This is delicious.
How's that go?
This is delicious.
Yeah, I had them actually quite a while ago now. I don't remember when. Doesn't really matter, but
I had no idea it was a thing.
oh yeah. I still prefer regular Skittles over Skittles gummies, but they're good.
Yeah, I like them.
I enjoy them. I also do like the gummy worms from Menards.
Yes.
I know. We haven't got you those in a while.
Oh, those are amazing.
They're just so basic, but so good.
I remember Tractor Supply having ones that I liked. I think my dad got me some of those once upon a time.
That's funny.
So all of my cats are put up, save one.
Hi, Penny.
Penny decided not to come
For the treats?
for the treats
Yeah.
as a bribe to lock them in
That's okay, though.
the room.
She's, like you said before, she's the
She's quiet.
least one to cause a ruckus.
She is.
So, or she's the last one that would cause a ruckus, I should say.
Also, don't prove me wrong.
Penny, live up to your name.
Yes. Penny?
Penny for your thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate the softball there. Hit it out of the park. But no, I'm doing well. Yeah, nothing to report here, I guess.
Good.
Out of the ordinary. So.
Well, your whole family was sick.
Oh my God, yeah. We got the flu ran through the house, so everybody had a touch of it, and that was not that great. So we're all doing pretty good. Sarah's still got her cough though, which has been bugging her.
Yeah, I hate that. That always lasts forever.
It just lingers, and it's the worst. Luckily, I did not have much of one here and there, but not like what she got. But
Yeah.
the kids, they bounced back relatively quickly too, so that was nice. I think the person who took the longest to bounce back was Sarah. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
I think I got the squeaky chair.
Oh, see, I even shook it when I grabbed it, and it didn't squeak, so I thought I had the right one.
Well, we'll see what happens.
All right, keep a ear out for that. Anyways,
So we got a very large beer.
well, yours is 25 ounces because
25 ounces.
because Budweiser likes to try and pad their numbers by adding even just an ounce to their tall boy, not tall boys. Tall boys are 16 ounce, but to their cans. So every ounce counts.
Well, yeah.
Do you know where your beer is? What state it's from?
So it looks like it could be from Hawaii. So it's called Kona Big Wave Liquid Aloha.
It is from Hawaii.
Go me.
Look at you go.
I know. Let's see. This says Kona Brewing Company, Fairfield, California, Fort Collins, Colorado, Catersville, Georgia, Merrimack, New Hampshire, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
No mention of Hawaii.
Do you want to know why? Because what Budweiser likes to do is come in and buy breweries and then fuck them up by not letting them produce where they're originally from. But it's originally from Hawaii. So.
And is in everywhere else but
Hawaii. So that's just like Coors Light was. If you ever see a commercial or an advertisement for it, it's going to say "Born in the Rockies."
Oh,
it was born there, but it's produced at all the Molson Coors breweries. Basically, the only actual Coors named beer that's produced only in Colorado is Coors Banquet because they use Rocky Mountain water. Oh, yeah, so
fancy.
That's the only one that's actually still brewed there. That's just for the longest time. Do you remember old commercials for Foster's? By chance, it was Australian
for beer. Yeah.
It was made in Canada and Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, so maybe not too Australian.
Psych.
JK. But
Australian phobia.
You remember those now?
Yes. What do you have?
I have a Foggy Geezer from War Pigs Brewing, which I don't remember where they're from.
Foggy Geezer.
Yeah, it's a hazy India pale ale. Where are you? Blah, 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 blah.
So is it going to taste like
it's
like you?
Yeah.
You Foggy Geezer, you?
Well, I'm old and my brain's foggy, so it's fitting.
It fits.
It's from Indiana, Munster, Indiana, USA. So I've seen this before. I've never had it, but mine's 7.3.
It's a pale ale.
It's a hazy IPA.
India hazy.
Pale Ale. Yeah.
Mine is 4.4%.
Ooh, good thing.
But I got a big one.
Yeah, good thing I have 5.8 ounces less than you. There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. I don't know what that aftertaste is like.
Ocean waves.
Yeah, it must be the ocean salt.
I heard if you actually put your ear up to the can, you can hear the ocean.
Should I try?
I mean, you have headphones on. It might be difficult.
Okay, let me take the headphones off and tilt the beer towards my ear. See if that works.
You're the only person that if you actually did that, I could see pouring beer in their ear.
Shut up.
Am I wrong?
I have a question for you.
Okay. What's your question for me?
Did you ever grow up with the...
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you're right. You didn't grow up. What am I saying?
Sorry. Continue.
Did you ever do May Day growing up?
Like
May 1st, go off to like your neighbors and drop baskets off, ring the doorbell and...
No, I just always knew Mayday was like you're crashing. So no.
Mayday, abort.
No, I
wonder where that came from. Mayday.
There's something behind it. I don't recall what it is.
Stay tuned for a future episode.
Maybe I'll reach out to my military friend. He knows things. So
yeah.
I'll be like, hey Q, what's the origin of Mayday?
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, I can kind of tell you what the origin of Mayday is in my story.
Okay.
Oh, by the way.
Yes.
I did have neighbors in Nebraska.
You did?
Yeah. They had a much prettier lawn than we did.
How many kernels did they have on them?
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
What?
Kernels of corn, because that's what your neighbors was, just cornfields.
Jesus. You're so weird.
I know.
No, I lived in town.
Oh.
So I lived in Elkhorn at this time,
okay.
which is kind of like a offshoot of Omaha.
Right.
And we had some neighbors who were, I think there were two boys older than us.
Okay.
But we always had a really good time with the younger son.
Sure.
We would play like hockey in his garage and stuff. And they always had a really pretty lawn.
Okay.
And they would get like recognized for their lawn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I should call them, find out what we can do for ours.
There's no.
There's no curtain back with my lawn.
No.
No, Nathan's going to try. I know.
God bless his heart.
I know it. He tries so hard.
Yeah. Anyways.
AKA my lawn is not pretty.
No.
Anyway, and I remember specifically one occasion where I don't know if my mom was with me or if it was just my sister, but we what is it? Ring in ditch or something?
Ding dong ditch.
Ding dong ditch. Yeah. So we had May baskets of some kind and ding dong ditch, but because we were neighbors, we ran across their yard into our yard. And they saw us through their basement window.
No kidding.
Because it was a finished basement and it was like one of those split levels, so it wasn't like so fully deep underground.
Down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're like, yep, there's Keaton Kelly.
Well done.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to head to Chicago.
Oh, another Illinois story.
I know, you love those.
Why do you keep doing that?
Because you love Illinois.
Didn't I say I want more? Help. Didn't I say I want more uplifting stories? Sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
That is not this one.
No.
So we're going to go to Chicago at the time of the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
So if you recall, during whatever you've learned from the Industrial Revolution, the workers had really long hours, really low wages. Workers often worked 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Ooh.
Like no overtime pay or very little anyway.
Right.
And wages were pretty low. barely enough to cover basic necessities.
That was just basically what they expected of their employees at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Until they really kind of formed the 5-day work week and whatever.
So factories were often poorly ventilated.
Right.
They were overcrowded and filled with hazardous machinery. Workers faced injuries and sometimes even death because of these situations.
As we learned in the Radium Girls, there was no OSHA at the time you're talking about because that appeared around them. So
yeah, that was the 1920s.
Yeah, rough, like late 20s, was it? Something like that?
Yeah. Then they had child labor. Child as young as 6 or 7 would work in factories along adults.
Could you imagine putting Xavier in one of those?
No.
No, not even like remotely. I wouldn't even be able to fathom that.
I know. He'd be like, how do I read the instructions to this machine?
Because he can't read
exactly.
yet. He's learning.
He's
doing
learning.
Good,
he's doing really well.
But yeah, I couldn't imagine putting my 6-year-old into a factory like that. That's wild.
Yeah. There was also an influx of immigrants from Europe and other places that had a large pool of cheap labor.
Yep.
And that led to a lot of ethnic tensions and competition for jobs.
Okay.
And then around this time, to improve working conditions and wages, workers started forming unions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there was the Knights of Labor and the American Federation of Labor. And these unions pretty much like put on strikes and protests to demand better treatment in their workplace.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, were there unions prior to this, or is this like when unions started?
It was prior. They were around prior. I think in the 1800s, but they were getting traction because of how bad everything was.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Chicago really took off as a major industrial center back then. If you recall, Chicago had like a great fire.
Sure did.
And everything like burned to the ground in like a couple, like a mile, I think, something like that, radius or something. We actually did a practice episode on the Great Chicago Fire.
We did.
You don't want to hear it, folks.
I mean, it was okay.
It was, I think, one of our first ones.
It was definitely early on.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Chicago wasn't that big before the fire, but after the fire, they put their heart and soul into rebuilding Chicago.
And not out of wood.
Not out of wood. And they shot up in population like super, super fast because of the fire. Yeah,
because if I remember right, wasn't it like one of the fastest growing cities, in part because of that?
Because of that, yeah. So in Chicago, there's a lot of German immigrants and a lot of Bohemian immigrants.
Bohemian, really?
So like Czechoslovakia, that kind of area.
Right.
Okay. They were working for $1.50 a day.
Oh my word!
A day.
Wow, that's
less than $47. So the inflation calculator only goes back to 1914.
Right.
Because there's not a lot of data before that.
Yeah.
So probably less than $47 in 1914.
Oh my God.
A day.
So if you got paid $1.50 a day, did a female get paid $1?
I don't know.
Sorry.
No, but you're not wrong.
No, I know.
So workers they were putting in some serious time. They were doing
$1.50. That's just
they were
fucking
doing
wild.
60 plus hours a week, 6 days a week.
And no matter,
and then they're all going to church on Sunday,
right? And no matter what, and that's the only reason why they had Sundays off is just because it was way more religious back then. It's like, all right, you can not work this day, so you can go pray and all that stuff. But isn't that just wild that no matter you worked 1 hour, you worked 12 hours, you're getting paid $1.50. And trust me, there wasn't many people working 1 hour. So it's more towards the 12. That's crazy.
So naturally, workers wanted to organize, demand better conditions. But the bosses, they weren't having it.
Well, because that cuts into their bottom line.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to do that. Yeah.
Is that a direct quote?
Can you file those TPS reports?
Yeah.
So the boss would fire anyone who would join a union or who wanted to join a union.
Right.
They locked workers out of their jobs. And they would hire scabs to take their place.
Are they really ugly?
A scab is a worker who crosses a picket line
Yep.
and continues to work during a strike.
Which
Did you know that?
I've heard that.
I've not heard that.
I wouldn't, if you asked me straight out, I probably would have got it wrong. But now that you mention it, I do remember that. Which, because a lot of people, like, if you ever seen, they would do a TV show and show somebody striking
Crossing
or whatever.
crossing the picket line.
They'd be yelling, scab.
Yeah, I have never seen that. Well, as you know, this was like betraying your fellow workers.
Well, yeah, because they're supposed to be togetherness and like in this together to try and force the bosses to
force their hand,
change what they're doing. And some people, unfortunately, though, they still had to work.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford not to get that $1.50 for the day.
I know.
So
Isn't
it's
that
just
awful?
It's terrible.
So bosses also played dirty tricks. They liked using spies to snoop on workers.
Oh, dear.
And even they tried to stir up trouble between the different ethnic groups to try to get workers to like stick together.
So like, hey, those Italians over there were making fun of the Irish.
Right.
What the fuck?
Yeah, right. So they had like big newspapers back then. I mean, that was their reading material. That was their news.
Like larger size or? Sorry.
Larger circulation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the newspapers actually sided with the bosses.
Well, yeah, because they made more money from them.
Yes. So everything in the newspaper was always like anti-union.
So wait, you're saying the media was biased?
And the media was in fact biased.
I've never heard that before.
But there were some newspapers who were run by and for the workers.
Sure.
And they were the ones fighting for workers' rights.
Nice.
So things got pretty tense in the mid-1880s when the economy tanked.
Yep.
You had these like socialist and antichrist
Antichrist?
anarchists.
Wow. That was fantastic.
Antichrist.
Well done.
You had socialists and anarchist groups, and they were kind of popping up everywhere.
And Antichrist.
The Antichrist. And the Knights of Labor, which was pretty mainstream at this point, focused on things like the 8-hour workday, and they saw a huge boom in membership, going from 70,000 to over 700,000 in just a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Chicago, there was a strong anarchist movement.
Sorry, that's just great. Oh, jeez.
English is hard.
English is hard.
So they were made up mostly of immigrants, and they had this newspaper called Arbeiter Zeitung.
Oh, what?
Don't ask me.
No,
I'm not gonna. No.
Please repeat once.
Arbeiter Zeitung. Something like that.
Wow. That was great. Okay.
I have German heritage. You're welcome.
So do I.
So they were pretty fired up. Some of them even believed in using violence, attacking the police and taking over factories to start a revolution.
See, I feel like that's actually not the right way to go.
That's not helpful.
No.
That's really not helpful.
It's actually kind of counterproductive.
It is.
But I get where they were coming from, but not the smartest option, I guess.
Yeah.
Either
It
way.
would have been my first choice.
Not so much.
But in 1884, labor unions across the country decided that May 1st, 1886, would be the day they demanded an 8-hour workday.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's May Day?
Yep. So as May 1st got closer, unions started gearing up for the massive strike. So on that day, thousands, even maybe 500,000, workers across the country.
Oh, so not just Chicago.
Nope, not just Chicago. They all walked off the job and held rallies.
On May 1st.
On May 1st, 1886.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they even had a special song called the 8 Hour with lyrics, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will.
That's, 24. Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
So Chicago was kind of the epicenter of the whole thing. They had about 30 to 40,000 workers there on strike.
Wow.
And then tons of people were out marching and protesting.
Okay.
So things are going well until May 3rd.
Oh, geez. Only a couple days later.
They went to the McCormick factory, which was they manufactured agricultural machinery
Okay.
At this McCormick factory. So the general strike happening here had mainly remained nonviolent.
Right.
However, workers surged to the gates to confront strike breakers.
Okay.
Or scabs.
Scabs.
When the end of the workday bell sounded.
Were they
so people were coming out of the factory at the end of the workday, and the strikers were essentially confronting these people.
Let's fuck these bitches up.
Yeah.
So they were picking at the scabs?
Kind of, yeah.
On the scabs?
Yeah.
Huh. You're not supposed to do that.
So a guy by the name of August Spies.
August Spies?
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's spelled like spies.
Oh, okay.
But it's pronounced Spies. He was a German anarchist.
Not an antichrist?
And a labor activist.
Okay.
He was also a newspaper editor. Okay. So August Spies was kind of in charge of this McCormick factory strike.
Okay.
So when these workers were coming out after the end of the day bell,
yeah,
and these workers and these strikers were kind of getting at it to each other,
confronting each other.
Spies was like, "No, we need to calm down. We need to calm the F down." The police at that time,
oh dear,
started firing into the crowd.
Why? Why would they do that?
2 McCormick workers were killed.
Oh shit. That doesn't sound like calming down at all.
No.
Taylor Swift would be pissed.
Spies later testified, quote, "I was very indignant. I knew from experience of the past that this butchering of people was done for the express purpose of defeating the 8-hour movement," end quote.
Wow.
So pissed as hell about this police violence.
Rightly so.
Local anarchists quickly printed and distributed flyers. So the little strike was over, right?
Yeah.
They printed and distributed flyers calling for a rally the following day at Haymarket Square.
On May the 4th?
May the 4th be with you.
Yay, Star Wars Day.
Which was, it was a commercial center near the corner of Randolph Street and Des Plaines Street, for those who know where that is.
How the hell did they get that out within a day?
Lots of people.
Jesus, no kidding, because, I mean, it's not like they said, go to the computer and print this off.
But get this, those flyers were printed both in English and in German.
Jesus.
Half of it was English and the bottom half was German, so it was just one flyer.
Okay.
But they stated that the police had murdered the strikers on behalf of business interests.
Okay.
And they urged the workers to seek justice. Well, the flyers contained the words, quote, "Working men, arm yourselves and appear in full force," end quote.
That seemed to be bad, terrible wording.
Yes, exactly. So Spies sees this line and he's like, "I am not going to speak or attend this rally or even support this rally unless these words, arm
removed?
Yourself, unless these words are removed from the flyer."
Yeah, because people are going to take it literally and be like, I'm going to go home and get my gun.
Yes. So another few hundred flyers were sent out. But of course, not everybody's going to get these flyers, these new flyers.
Of course not.
Or they've already read the original. More than 20,000 copies were distributed.
Holy shit.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, that's just wild that they got that many out.
It's like spread like wildfire.
It's like the Chicago fire all over again.
So the rally itself started peacefully on May 4th at Haymarket Square.
Star Wars Day.
It was actually raining that day as well. So Spies, Albert Parsons, and Reverend Fielden spoke at the crowd, and it was probably somewhere between 600 and 3,000 people. That's a big difference, but that's the numbers I had.
That's quite a different, yeah.
And then there was a big police presence watching the whole thing.
Well, sure.
So Spies quotes as saying, quote, "There seems to prevail the opinion in some quarters that this meeting has been called to inaugurate a riot. Hence these warlike preparations on the part of so-called law and order. However, let me tell you at the beginning that this meeting has not been called for any such purpose. The object of this meeting is to explain the general situation of the 8-hour movement and to throw light upon various incidents in connection with it," end quote.
All right.
All right. So he's like, I do not advocate.
He's trying to diffuse it
He is.
from the get-go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't escalate to something bad.
Yes. So after Spies spoke, Albert Parsons, who
Bespoke.
after Spies spoke, Albert Parsons, who was he ran a radical newspaper called The Alarm. He then started to address the crowd.
Okay. Did he contradict what Spies just said? I mean,
No. So things were still fairly calm at this point. And the mayor even showed up to check things out, but then he left. He left early.
Oh.
He was like, all right, this is the thing that's happening. Go, guys. I'm leaving. Everything's good.
gotta get home to the wife's making a stew.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It does actually sound pretty good.
Finally, Reverend Fielden stepped up, and he was a socialist and anarchist preacher.
Oh, dear.
He gave a short speech of like 10 minutes or so, whereas the other two were like an hour or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you can talk that much, but whatever.
Well, I mean,
I'm doing it right now, but whatever.
Yeah, so
So by this time, many of the crowd had already left as the weather was actually getting worse that day.
Sure.
So now here's where the stories start to differ.
Oh, okay.
The New York Times said Fielden went on a rant for 20 minutes,
Okay.
getting more and more wild and violent.
Like he was getting more wild and violent?
Yeah, he was heated. So another article in the Times calls the strikers a mob and blamed the whole thing on the famous anarchist named Johann Most, who wasn't even in Chicago at this time.
So how can you blame him for it?
Exactly. Oh, it gets worse.
Oh, dear.
So just as Fielden was wrapping up, a bunch of cops marched into the square and ordered everyone to leave.
Okay.
Fielden insisted that the meeting was peaceful.
So he insisted that it's peaceful?
Yeah, he's still up on the stage. He's like, no, everything is fine. We're all calm.
Yeah, we're good, man.
Yeah, we're good. Don't
leave us be.
Yeah.
Basically.
Leave my bubble alone.
Leave your buffalo alone? What?
Bubble.
Oh, bubble? Don't burst it.
Don't burst my bubble. Police Inspector John Bonfield proclaimed, quote, I command you, addressing the speaker, in the name of the law to desist, and you, addressing the crowd, to disperse, end quote.
I still like when Xavier would come up to me and be like, put your hands up in the name of the law. Sorry. This is really cute having a 5-year-old come up to you and say that. It's like, what? All right.
What's that other phrase that he says?
Oh, geez.
The copper.
Never catch me, copper.
You never catch me, copper.
He got that from me because I just thought it'd be really cute to hear him say it.
And it is cute.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
Okay, so suddenly someone in the crowd threw a bomb.
Like an actual bomb?
Yes, right at the cops as they were moving in.
Oh, Jesus.
It exploded, killing one officer, Matthias Deegan.
Oh, wow.
And wounded a bunch of others.
Sure. Like what kind of bomb?
And then all hell broke loose.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it was a homemade bomb.
It's like a pipe bomb, but from 1887? I mean...
1886?
86, sorry. I was a year off. That's pretty good.
Gunfire erupted.
Of course.
Because not everybody got the second fly.
Because not everyone brought their bombs.
And it's actually still unclear to this day who started it and even who threw the bomb.
Right.
Yeah. We weren't sure. Cops or protesters, we don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't think the cops would throw the bomb at themselves and blow themselves up.
I highly doubt that.
Unless dude dropped it and like, fuck. blew up.
dropped it out of his holster.
Yeah.
My bad.
Oh, I thought I had the safety on. Shit.
So to make things worse, the police started shooting each other in the confusion.
Oh, did they not recognize the uniform? I mean, how do you... Oh, man. He must have stole this outfit from somebody. Shoot him. Like, how the fuck do you accidentally do that? Because you can't tell me that it was like super foggy out.
No, but the bomb just exploded.
I get that, but so what?
Fire and everybody's running every which way and I don't know, smoke? I don't know.
Would you say there was anarchy afoot?
Afoot. So the square emptied out pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, because no one wants to get killed.
Yeah, and all the injured people just lay everywhere.
Oh,
in the end, 7 police and 4 workers were killed.
Wow, really?
Yeah, yes. So historians still debate exactly how many cops were killed by other cops versus the protesters, but they think that did happen.
That's just wild.
Yeah.
And then confusion. Come on.
And then 2 years later, another officer died from the injuries that he got that night. So, and I'm not sure what happened, but somehow because of the injuries he got that night. He managed to stay alive for 2 years and then he passed.
Whatever he sustained that night, eventually he succumbed to. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So one of the cops there, Captain Shack.
Shack?
Mm-hmm. He said a lot more workers were injured than the cops.
Okay.
So it's unknown. We just don't know. There's just not a lot of reliable
sources.
And and multiple sources that say the same thing. So
that's wild.
The Chicago Herald called it wild carnage.
Well, yeah.
Saying there was probably at least 50 civilians dead or wounded.
Potentially. That's just conjecture.
It was also a hard number to get to because a lot of the workers who were injured were afraid to go to the hospital, fearing that they'd get arrested while they were there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So after Haymarket, things got a lot tougher for unions.
You don't say.
Bosses cracked down. Workers were back to those long work days, 10 hours or more.
$1.50 a day.
The German and Bohemian communities, along with other immigrants and labor groups, were really under the microscope.
Right.
Yeah. So the police went on a rampage raiding homes and offices of anyone they suspected of being an anarchist.
So if they suspected they just did it, that's kind of bullshit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, hey, man, Joe down the road.
Yeah, anarchist. Let's go.
Let's go get that fucker.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, where's your proof? I don't have any. Cool.
Exactly. And they arrested a ton of people, and none of them had anything to do with the bombing.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah. So the investigation focused on the people who spoke at the rally.
Okay.
And the Arbeiterzeitung newspaper. So they accused a small group of anarchists of making the bomb that exploded. The newspapers really played up the idea that anarchists were to blame for the riot, and most people believed them.
Of course.
Yeah. And the press went crazy with the story, making it seem even more dramatic than it really was by calling it a riot, when a lot of places like on the internet and historians, they call it an affair, the Haymarket affair, or the Haymarket incident.
They had the internet back then?
No.
You're saying today.
Today. Jeez.
Just confirming.
So things also got really ugly for the labor movement.
Right.
The wealthy, the newspapers, and basically everyone else that they thought. Rewind. The wealthy and the newspapers pretty much thought that they needed to crack down on these anarchists. So even the Knights of Labor and other unions who were supposed to be on the workers' side actually distanced themselves from the anarchists and condemned the violence.
Well, I mean,
so they're like backtracking, saving face.
Can you blame them though? Because if all you're like looking to do is to literally cause harm to people to try and get your point across,
we don't approve of that.
No, there's much better ways to do that than to cause hurt to people. I mean, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
But
so a lot of the workers actually suspected the Pinkertons were involved.
Not the Pinkertons.
They were a detective agency hired by companies to spy on workers and break up strikes, and they weren't afraid to use violence.
No, they're actually pretty well known for that.
Yeah, and so a lot of the workers thought that the Pinkertons have had a hand in what happened at Haymarket.
Right.
So the police were convinced that some of the anarchists had planned the bombing, but they needed the proof.
Right.
So they raided the offices of Arbeiterzeitung.
Who did they raid the office of?
The German newspaper. Thank you very much.
All right.
That newspaper was ran by August Spies.
Oh, hey, we know that guy.
Yeah. They arrested him.
Of course.
And a few others who worked there.
Right.
And then they searched for this guy called Louis Ling.
Louis Ling.
Mm-hmm. Ling wasn't at the rally, but they did find bombs and bomb-making paraphernalia in his home.
That doesn't bode well for Ling.
It doesn't.
Wow, okay.
So the police were also looking for Rudolf Schnallbelt. Rudolf Schnallbelt.
He's German, isn't he?
Yeah. They think that he threw the bomb.
Okay. Why did they think that? Did they say? Did you see anything where
that was not part of my research. They arrested him a couple of times early on, but every time they let him go.
That seems like a mistake.
And then?
No, and then?
He disappeared.
Oh, weird.
They think he flew to London.
Into the ether? Oh.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So how did he fly? Like, he's not a bird.
Fled. He fled.
Because flight wasn't invented for another 17 years.
He probably had like really bushy eyebrows, you know.
How do you spell the Wright brothers' name?
R-I-G-H-T.
No, but all right.
I know.
That's how you spell
I
it.
know. So in all, 8 people were charged with murder.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes. 2 of them were there. 6 people who were arrested for murder were not at the Haymarket.
How can they fucking do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Stupid.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Spees and Fielden, who had been speaking at the rally, they were leaving when the bomb exploded.
Oh.
A few others, Adolf Fischer and Albert Parsons, were at the rally earlier, but had left well before the bombing.
Okay.
Parsons actually turned himself in, even though they didn't think they would have any evidence against him, but he was arrested. Like, he was trying to be a decent guy. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, I'm trying to, like, wrap my brain around this.
There's no logic.
Not at all. They're just like, you know what?
You fit the profile.
Yeah, you fit what we want to say, so
yeah,
you're arrested, and we're going to charge you for murder.
So George Engel and Louis Ling weren't at the rally.
And they were charged.
Mm-hmm. They were arrested because they were considered radical activists.
So just because you were considered a radical activist, that's why they got charged with murder?
And then there was this guy named Oscar Neebe who was involved with the newspaper, but he wasn't there either.
But yet, let's arrest him anyways.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Out of the 8, 5 were born in Germany, 1 was German-American, and the other 2 were born in U.S. and England.
Weird.
Yeah. So they had a trial. It started in June 1886. So real quick.
Yeah, that
May
was a
4th to June. Yeah.
That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. And it dragged on for weeks. The atmosphere was met with like extreme prejudice against the defendants.
Okay.
The Judge Gary, was also very biased.
Please tell me that was his first name. They just called him Judge Gary.
He ruled in favor of the prosecution all the time and didn't even try to keep things fair.
How the fuck is he a judge? What a dick.
And picking the jury was a nightmare. It took weeks, and they went through hundreds of people. And anyone who was in a union or even just sympathetic to socialism was automatically dismissed.
Sure.
And at one point, the judge even let the bailiff pick the jurors, and he was also biased.
What?
Yep.
Why the hell would you let the bailiff fucking pick the jury? That's just ridiculous. Okay.
So the prosecution argued that even though the defendants didn't throw the bomb, they were still responsible as conspirators.
Oh, my word.
In all, 118 people, including 54 members of the Chicago Police Department, took the stand.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a lot.
Yeah. Albert Parsons' brother even claimed the Pinkertons might have been involved, which a lot of the strikers believed.
Right.
But they didn't do anything about the Pinkertons.
Well, no, because they can just arrest whoever else they want and blame them for it.
The police did some tests on the bomb fragments that hit the cops, and they found that the metal used in the bomb matched the metal in the bombs found at Ling's place.
Right.
So Captain Shack, the police chief, figured that these anarchists had been experimenting with bombs for a long time, and they were trying to like perfect it before they used it. So then at the very last minute, the court realized they forgot to give the jury instructions about manslaughter.
They forgot?
Yep.
Oh, hey, by the way.
So they brought the jury back in, gave them the missing information, and of course, that's the last thing that they hear.
Well, yeah, it's going to stick in their mind.
Yeah, and of course, they found all 8 defendants guilty.
Wow, really?
Yes.
That's our justice system at work there, folks.
Before sentencing, Neebe basically called out Captain Shack, saying that the police were just as bad as the anarchists.
Right.
But Judge Gary sentenced 7 of them to death by hanging and Neebe to 15 years in prison.
Why did he only get 15 years?
He was the one, let's see here. He was only involved in the newspaper, but still an anarchist, so I don't know. That was not part of my
research.
So people were furious.
Rightly so.
Yeah, labor unions and workers all of the world protested.
Right.
But the newspapers painted the defendants as bloodthirsty monsters, dangerous foreigners, and Captain Shack even wrote a book out about it, which just fueled the fear and hatred. Well, so it really divided everybody.
Sounds like Captain Shack is just trying to benefit from the situation that he fucking created.
Yeah. And people were scared of these radical workers, and there was a lot of like anti-immigrant sentiment then.
Understandably so, because they were painted in such a terrible light that they did all this shit, even though they had no actual proof. Mm-hmm. But all right.
So the case was appealed in 1887 to the Supreme Court of Illinois, then to the United States Supreme Court, where the defendants were represented by John Randolph Tucker, Roger Atkinson Pryor, General Benjamin F. Butler, and William P. Black.
What does the F mean in F. Butler?
F, his middle initial is F.
I know. What does it mean?
I don't know.
That wasn't part of your research?
That wasn't part of my research. That was like the last thing on my mind.
Well,
the petition for the appeal was denied.
Of course it was.
So after all the appeals were done, it was up to Governor Oglesby, Governor Oglesby, to decide whether to let these guys live or not.
Oh, that's nice of him.
Tons of people wrote letters begging him to spare their lives, but the newspapers were mostly calling for them to be hanged.
Of course they were.
Governor Oglesby was really conflicted. He remembered like what it was like to be an abolitionist, and he realized that if the laws were applied strictly, he and other abolitionists could have been hanged too.
Right.
So in the end, he said he'd only pardon those who asked for mercy.
So as long as you asked, he'd pardon it?
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
4 of them refused. Why? Saying that because they were like, I'm innocent. I'm not going to
ask for forgiveness.
I'm not going to.
Because basically they're giving up they're saying they're guilty without saying they're guilty.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
So 4 of them were like, no, I'm not going to ask for forgiveness because I didn't do anything.
Right. No, I mean, I don't blame him because, hey, I'm fucking innocent, man.
So Fielden and Schwab asked for mercy, and their sentences were reduced to life in prison.
Oh, so they still got to go to prison then.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Before his execution, Ling killed himself in his cell using a smuggled bomb.
Oh. How the hell do you smuggle a bomb into jail, man?
We have a couple holes.
I mean, I guess.
Unavailable orifices.
There it is.
The next day, 4 of the men, Engel, Fisher, Parsons, and Spies, were hanged.
Wow, that's just wild.
They were all dressed in white, and they sang the French national anthem, the Marseillaise.
Why?
I don't know.
Weren't they like mostly German? Why are they singing French? Oui, oui.
Oh. Why did not include that in part of my research?
I all of a sudden want some ratatouille. Wait, that's a movie.
Lucy Parsons, Albert Parsons' wife, tried to see him one last time, but she was arrested and searched for bombs.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So before they were hanged, Spies shouted something about their silence being more powerful than the voices trying to silence them.
Okay.
Engel and Fisher yelled, "Hurrah for anarchism," before they died. And Parsons tried to say something too, but they dropped the trap door before he could finish.
That's what a dick move.
Yeah. It's like hanging up the phone when someone's trying to say, "Goodbye, have a great night, I love you."
And it's like,
goodbye. Click.
Oh, were you saying something? My apologies.
And witnesses said, these were not quick deaths.
No, I'm sure they wriggled and riled all.
Yeah. The men, they struggled for a while before they finally died, and it was pretty gruesome, and a lot of people were shaken by it. Rightfully so.
I can imagine so.
The thing is, they never caught the person who threw the bomb because they don't know who actually threw the bomb.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, you should kill all those cops that were there, too.
How can you convict someone for conspiracy when you don't know who actually did it?
Right.
Well, historians think that Rudolf Schonebelt, who was Michael Schwab's brother-in-law, was probably the one who threw the bomb.
Okay.
A lot of people, especially in the labor movement, thought that the trial was a total sham and a real miscarriage of justice.
Clearly.
And years later, Governor John Peter Altgeld, who was an immigrant himself, pardoned 3 of the men.
Good thing they were dead already.
Some of them were sent to life in prison, though.
Oh, so he pardoned some of the ones that were in prison?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
So he said the trial was unfair, the jury was biased, and there was no proof linking the defendants to the bombing.
No, it was a complete sham of a fucking thing.
Yeah, and he also criticized the city for letting the Pinkertons get away with violence against workers.
Right.
So this really hurt the governor politically, and he lost the next election.
Well, good for him, though, for doing the right fucking thing, even though he lost the next election.
Historians mostly agree that the Haymarket trial was a miscarriage of justice, and they say that the prosecution focused on the defendant's speeches and writings, even though they didn't have any real proof about who actually threw the bomb.
Right.
And obviously the judge was clearly biased, and the jury, and everyone was just prejudiced against the defendants from the start.
Not only was the judge biased, he was a complete piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because he clearly didn't fucking care about actual justice. He just wanted a paycheck and was like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, because he didn't listen to anything.
No. Historian Timothy Mezer-Cruz looked closely at the trial records, and he actually argues that for the time period, the trial was actually pretty fair.
What? How?
I don't know. Well, he says there's evidence linking the defendants to the bombing and to the anarchist groups. And he also points out that back then trials relied mostly on witness testimony and not all like the fancy forensic stuff that we do today.
Because they didn't have the forensics back then, but at the same time.
But if they're writing about violence and they're writing about the bombs, even though they can't prove otherwise, like that's still some evidence.
Which I get, but half those people weren't even fucking there.
I know.
That's my point. They weren't even there.
But they could be
But they wrote about it.
Yes, they were conspiring.
I thought about having a sandwich, but I had a sandwich.
Yep.
Fuck.
So historian Nathan Fine points out that the trade union activities continued to show signs of growth and vitality, culminating later in 1886 with the establishment of the Labor Party of Chicago. So he says, quote, "The fact is that despite police repression, newspaper incitement to hysteria, and organization of the possessing classes, which followed the throwing of the bomb on May 4th, the Chicago wage earners only united their forces and stiffened their resistance. The conservative and radical central bodies, there were 2 each of the trade unions and also the Knights of Labor, the socialists and the anarchists, the single taxers and the reformers, the native-born and the foreign-born, Germans, Bohemians, and Scandinavians all got together for the first time on the political field in the summer following the Haymarket Affair. The Knights of Labor doubled its membership, reaching 40,000 in the fall of 1886. On Labor Day, the number of Chicago workers in parade led the country," end quote.
Wow.
So, a year after Haymarket, Senator Leland Stanford gave an interview where he talked about how the gap between workers and bosses was getting bigger. He even supported the idea of workers owning their own businesses, which was something that the Knights of Labor were promoting. So labor unions kept fighting for that 8-hour workday. And in 1888, the American Federation of Labor, the AFL, decided to try again.
Okay.
Setting May 1st, 1890 as the date for the big strike.
Oh.
Samuel Gompers, the head of the AFL.
That's a fantastic last name.
He wrote this international meeting of socialists in Paris. He told them about the AFL's plan and suggested a worldwide effort for the 8-hour day.
Okay.
So the socialists loved the idea and chose May 1st, 1980 as its day for its international demonstration.
Okay.
So another reason the socialists chose May 1st was to honor the memory of the workers who died at Haymarket.
Right.
And during the strikes that happened that year.
Okay.
So the first May Day was a huge success. Newspapers around the port reported on these massive demonstrations that year. May Day celebrations continued every year after that.
Really?
In Mexico, they especially remembered the Haymarket martyrs. In 1921, Mother Jones, a famous labor leader, was in Mexico for May Day. She wrote about how they celebrated the workers who were killed in Chicago and fighting for the 8-hour day.
Okay. And
then 1939, the New York Times reported that the May Day parade in Mexico City was a way to honor the memory of those who died in Chicago. So Even though they couldn't prove any of the defendants actually threw the bomb, the prosecution tried to make it seem like they were all involved.
Of course. How's that go? All right.
So over the years, writers and others have come up with all sorts of theories about who the real bomber might have been.
Right.
The most likely suspect is Rudolf Schonbelt.
Yep.
He was Michael Schwab's brother-in-law, the one who fled.
Yeah.
He was there at Haymarket and fled the country. Police even had a witness who claimed to see him throw the bomb, but we don't know.
Yeah, that's probably bullshit.
The men who were executed were buried in a cemetery called Waldheim. Later, Schwab and Niebe were buried there too.
Okay.
And they're all together.
Aw.
And there's even a special monument there for the Haymarket martyrs. It's actually a national historic landmark now.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed that, but okay.
Yeah. That is the Haymarket affair.
I have never heard of that before. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it was the beginning of, well, trying to get fair not wages per se, but hours and all that. So
8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, 8 hours of
what we want.
Of what we will.
Yeah. And it's funny because, for as much as if they could have just got Dolly Parton,
you think so?
Well, yeah, because
she does have power.
Working 9 to 5.
Yeah, she's got power.
But it's funny how they fought so hard for that, and that's not so much the case anymore again.
Yeah.
It's just people they don't get paid enough, especially in the markets that we are in now with how expensive shit is, gas, all that stuff. And a lot of people need 2 jobs right now to...
Hi, I've got 2.
Hello, 2. But yeah, it's funny how it's kind of going back to, obviously not that extreme, but it's going back that way, which is really kind of sad. The golden age of, you have a wife and a husband. The husband would go to work. Yeah. The wife would stay home and be a homemaker, raise the kids if they had them, do the cleaning, whatever. Obviously I'm thinking like the 50s and stuff. Right. You could afford to do that. You could have a house, a fucking car. Yeah. Pay for groceries, all that. One person income. Now you need a household of even just 2 people need 4 fucking jobs to pay for everything. It's just wild. It's wild. Yeah. It's really unfortunate that it's going that route. Yeah. But when everything gets so expensive, what are you supposed to do? So. Yeah, I still want to have fun. So. Well, and that's the thing. I still want to have fun and do stuff with the kids and whatever. So it's I've got to figure out how to make that money. So. Yeah. And it's, unfortunate, but it is what it is. It is what it is. We just got to roll with the punches. But do they have to hit every time? I feel like they don't, but they fucking do every time. Every time. Why is it always in the gut, too? Gut punch. All right. So how do you feel about your Foggy geezer? I liked it. It was good. Whoa, almost tipped the can over. I did finish mine. I know I get to partake a little more than you do because you're speaking a bit more, but it was really good. I like the can. It looks like, I know you're not a huge Indiana Jones fan, but you've seen the movies, yes? Once upon a time. It's been a long time since I've watched it from start to finish. It's pretty sad, actually. The guy on the can reminds me of in the Last Crusade, the old knight who had the Holy Grail and all that. Sure. Yeah. Sure. All right. Anyways, I'll just stop that. My can reminds me of Hawaii. I wonder why. Kona Big Wave. Fucking A, right. It's in a blue can. Yeah, it is. It is pretty good. I like it. And it's not because it's sad. It's just literally the color blue. It's blue like the ocean. It's kind of like aquamarine. It's like sky blue. Why do you have to talk like that? Because we're not talking about California Valley Girl. We're talking about Hawaii. Okay, so yes. I'm glad you enjoyed your beer. I enjoyed my beer. Good. My all 4.4 ounces, which I haven't. I don't even think I'm halfway through this yet. Well. But yeah, good story. Yeah, I liked it. That's different. I never heard about that before. And it's unfortunate that such a miscarriage of justice happened, but yeah, it was the 1880s. Shit was wild. No, not so much. I wasn't there. But you probably think I was.
Well,
I suppose. All right, buffoons, that's it for today's episode.
buckle up because we've got another historical adventure waiting for you next time. Feeling hungry for more buffoonery? Or maybe you have a burning question or a wild historical theory for us to explore?
Hit us up on social media. We're History Buffoons Podcast on YouTube, X, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also email us at historybuffoonspodcast@gmail.com. We are Bradley and Kate. Music by Corey Akers.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts and turn those notifications on to stay in the loop.
Until next time, stay curious and don't forget to rate and review us.
Remember, the buffoonery never stops.